Welcome to the Dark Dial emergency broadcast.
That was loud. Yeah, we thought since the government's doing an emergency broadcast, we could do an emergency broadcast.
True.
I know you got it today. I know
We
you
all
got
did.
it.
I got it twice, actually. It came through at about a 10-minute interval 2 times.
Yeah, we got it twice. Well, 2 on our phones, and then about 15 minutes later, the other phone went up.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. People were going nuts about it. Jacqueline was showing me people marking themselves safe from the emergency broadcast, like on Facebook.
I
Like a
did it.
Facebook event. That's funny.
I
That's
definitely
funny.
did.
Oh man. Oh, we got Rec in chat already.
Really?
Yeah, he said so he was not going to be able to catch us at the normal time this week, so it's a strange happenstance
Yeah.
moment. Yeah, it is, isn't it?
We're just throwing
We're
this
very
together.
random today.
Well, I'm glad you got the opportunity to get a chance to see us this week. Appreciate you stopping in as always.
My chat was frozen. Oh, okay, I see him now. Cool. Right on. Yeah. Yep. So we were talking about it. Yeah, people were going nuts. They think high frequency tones are being emitted that release graphene oxide, is what I heard, into the bloodstream or something crazy like that.
Yeah, see, I was given a similar story that the DARPA hydrogel is gonna like crystallize in people's brains and turn them into basically psychic zombies.
I heard we had malware installed in our phones during this.
See, that I find a lot more believable.
It's definitely feasible, 110%.
So it seemed like people, because they gave a window when the alert was going to happen, it was like a 30-minute window. People were saying, okay, for 29 minutes, it's going to output high-frequency sound that's going to, the psychic bombardment will happen for 29 minutes. I don't know. I don't buy any of that, because it's probably provably wrong. Because, I thought about hooking my phone up to record it, the aux out on my phone. The dogs didn't seem to hear anything. It forced his pastor's Mac to restart. That's pretty funny.
Interesting.
That's wonky.
That's what we were talking about a little bit before the show. This emergency broadcast. No, what is it? Emergency broadcast. Is that, we know some verifiable ways, at least in the past, that you could fry iOS by, you all right there? You gonna live?
All good.
You gonna live? Okay.
All good.
Stop dying. So we all chug caffeine for this random stream. Yeah, so there's some verifiable ways you can send a text to Apple phones in the past that would literally just brick the phone outright.
It's just a string of ASCII characters, wasn't it? Nothing fancy.
Yeah, it did some sort of buffer overflow thing, and you could send it to an Android phone, and like we were saying, you would just see a string of characters. It would be okay, but something in what do they call their messaging app? Is it iMessage?
iMessage, yeah, that's the one.
I'm not an Apple user. Well, not much of an Apple user. You can see the iMacs behind them there, but so it did some sort of injection, some sort of script injection, and it buffer overflowed the system and it would just kill the phone. And I'd seen it happen, and it was interesting. And there are also tools in Android. There's some Android manipulations where you can install what you would call a RAT or a remote access Trojan or toolkit.
Yeah, those are scary, man.
Yeah, that you could control somebody's phone, and it would, in the past, with certain vulnerabilities, wouldn't take long at all. So that was my thing about it, is if you are going to go the conspiracy territory when it comes to this broadcast, would that not be more likely? Would it not be more likely that there was some sort of way to inject a script onto your phone?
The question then becomes, what is that script trying to accomplish? If we're to take that as the Occam's razor theory of what's going on here, and we break it back down, is is it surveillance? Is it vector transmission theory crafting? Is it literally a disease simulation where they're looking at people who have an unidentified disease within themselves, and they're using, it's like wargaming in a way, but for diseases, and they're just using physical phones to do it? Or, you know, there's a couple different directions something like that could go.
Well, you had previously pointed out the connection to like the Hawaii broadcast years ago, the missile incoming emergency alert that went out to Hawaii.
Yeah, and that one is strange in and of itself. I feel like with systems that are as high security and as high public reach as our emergency broadcast systems are, even if it's looking at the older ones just with the TV, I feel like accidents don't just happen.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that was some guy's whoopsie.
Yeah, I agree.
And if it was anything, it was probably a test of, well, okay, so here's one potential path. They were testing to see what people would do, what kind of panic would happen, what the response would be to something like that. I mean, it's not as though the government, there aren't many verified cases of the government experimentation on the public.
And in terms of experimentation, that's light enough that even if it came to light, it probably wouldn't have much of a reaction within the public. You know, I mean, MK Ultra didn't have much of a reaction in the public when it came to light that it was true. So if something like that came out, it's low profile, low stakes enough in a way that it's not gonna cause much of a... It's gonna be able to be memory hold easily, as if it was that kind of test. They're gonna be able to kind of... And it kind of has been memory hold. I remember bringing it up earlier. You looked almost surprised, like you had forgotten about it. And honestly, I had too. Because it was an event that just kind of happened, and it feels like something that attention should have been paid to. That's our warning system for like nuclear bombardment, and a couple of weeks went by, and everyone just kind of forgot about it. It just moved on.
Well, I think I look surprised about it because I was putting myself in the emotional state of somebody who would have received a missile incoming emergency message.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah, that is, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know. I would have looked around for a cigar. Respectable.
Get to a high point and watch it all burn for a millisecond. I don't know. That's not what this... I mean, the truth is, you know, Rick pointed out in chat that they were saying the graphene idea, it's supposed to unfold over like 2... Which I have no idea. Yeah. I find that hard to buy, personally. I think there are more malicious examples of things that would be more likely, like I said, like some sort of script that's being put into your phone. And that really could be, you know, again, verified things. Stuxnet. If you're not aware of what Stuxnet is,
go ask Iran. They'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically I want to call it a virus. Yeah, you could call it a worm, and it had in it something like half a dozen different zero-day exploits. A zero-day exploit being...
It was the most that had ever been...
included in one package, yeah. And this thing managed to get into an Iranian uranium enrichment facility and spin up its centrifuges and recorded data for a long period of time, so it knew what to display in terms of normal operation, and then it was displaying that to the operators, but in the meantime it was ripping the machines apart on the inside.
Critical failure on everything. That is one of the wildest cases of malicious infiltration to a network that I think exists. You know, there may be wilder stuff that like isn't made privy to the public, but of the things that exist that we can know about, I don't think there is anything that tops Stuxnet as cyber infiltration. It's insane.
You should study cybersecurity cases. I mean, it's out there. It's both out there and out there in terms of you can read about it. Because there might have been crazier stuff. There might be crazier stuff that's happening now. And I mean, this would be a great distribution method for something like that. Let's say you wanted to get a virus into Russia or something like that. A good way to do that would be to get it on every American's phone and just let one eventually, slide into the right place, get on the right machine.
Yep.
Because I think even that the Stuxnet thing, I believe it was air gapped.
It was. Yeah.
Like somebody had to pick up a flash drive or ultimately connect their phone to the network, and somehow this thing had the capability of jumping over that air gap.
Yeah, it spread, like, it vectored through email for a long time, I want to say. Which, I mean, everything vectored through email back when that was the thing, I think. And eventually it did make its way through physical media into the facility, because the facility was, cut off, like, completely from the external internet. It had to get in through... There was no way for it to come in over, like, an email server or something like that. It physically had to penetrate the facility.
I was gonna turn my phone off during it all, but I got the time zones mixed up.
You and me both. I did the same thing.
I thought it was gonna go off at like 2:20 or so, and then all of a sudden I got off the phone with my mom, and we had just been talking about it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on and everything. And then like not even 20 minutes later, my phone's like, rah, rah. I'm like, damn it, I got the timer.
Yep, no, it spooked me when it went off.
Now the things are already in my brain and they're taking over.
You had told me the time, and I thought it was at like 2 our time. And
I told everybody. I was like, yeah, it'll be in the afternoon. Get yourself prepared so it doesn't startle you. I told, everybody going to school today, your phone's going to go off. You might want to just turn it off. Totally got the time wrong and messed up for everybody.
Oh, man.
My mom texted me like, it just went off and I didn't have time to turn my phone off. And I was like, yeah, the brainwave's already in us now.
We got the brainwaves, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's nefarious stuff like what they're accusing this broadcast of being occurring all the time, and in just a lot more subversive distribution methods. Putting it out there on an emergency broadcast, some like Havana syndrome kind of thing. So I mean that does touch into sound waves and their potential in terms of biological disruption. They don't really publicize what happened with the Havana syndrome thing, do they?
No, there is that one is still up in the books as what happened. What in God's name happened here? It throws me for a loop. It was like what, 400 people or something like that?
I don't know, but it was definitely some sort of sonar device is what it seemed like that everybody was getting sick from, some sort of
Getting
infrasound.
fried by it,
yeah.
basically.
If you don't have a Google phone, what do you use? I'm confused. I don't do computers, so I don't know that.
Google owns Android.
Right.
So it's like a non-Android OS. There's stuff out there like there's Linux phones out there that exist. There are there's one Pine OS. Is that based on Android or is that based on Linux? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I don't know. I was trying to think to tell Rex in chat here, who's talking about non-Google phones and stuff. There's one in particular that's written for the Google Pixel. It's like the only thing you can install it on. It's a custom ROM that you can load up, and it runs everything in like Docker containers, so it does containerization of the different apps.
That's
so
nice.
that they can't talk across apps. So let's say you have a marketing ID on Facebook, another app, Opera or whatever, TikTok or whatever, can't read what's happening in the Google app because it's all in its own container running.
Can you still Google on a non-Google phone?
They'll get mad at you though. They'll send
God.
the Google police out.
You're not wrong. So, like, I have some phones with custom ROMs on them, and they don't. When you first install the custom ROM, it doesn't have any Google apps. Now,
You have to go like sideload the Play Store.
yeah, there's stuff like Mind the G apps, is one of them. There's different G app suites that you have to then go sideload on the phone so that you can use Google services. Because the reality is, in most cases, you're going to want Google services somehow.
Which is unfortunate, but
Yeah, it is.
such is the way.
Yeah, it is ironic that Google owns the Pixel. I'm gonna find that name for you.
I've thought about getting.
Ironic. It's Graphene OS.
No.
Yes. Yeah, it's Graphene OS. Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm aware, this is the only one that does that level of containerization.
Okay.
And I also don't think it installs on much outside the Pixel, because a lot of the custom ROMs are built off of the Google Pixel like image for other phones.
Interesting. I've thought about getting like an Ubuntu phone before, or possibly installing the Ubuntu phone OS onto one of my devices. I feel like security-wise, Linux is probably one of the better ways to go, but I also feel like it's going to be the most difficult and unuser-friendly experience that I will ever have with a device in my life.
Well, it just puts you in charge of all the now you're the system administrator. You better be on top of it when it comes to security.
And we know how that goes with them, man.
Yeah, web servers and all that. You know, it's not like we're a stranger to that.
I can barely work my phone as is, so I have to leave it alone.
Phones are a whole different beast for me. I can handle computers. Phones are...
Having a de-Googled phone is not... the whole point is not to have any Google apps. Yeah, you're right, but there are custom ROMs that you get that, you know, if you want to run stuff like the Google Play Store and you want stuff from it. I mean, it's that or you sideload all the APKs, but there's even, like, issues with a lot of sideloading. You experienced this with Snapchat, right? Like Snapchat, even the Magisk app, which is used to essentially... I don't know how to explain it. There's security checks that certain apps go through to make sure you're not running custom ROMs and you don't have your bootloader unlocked.
It knew. It knew at a deep level.
Yeah, it knew even after installing stuff to hide it, like the Magisk app.
And Magisk is good from what I understand. It is, like, the best at what it does. It making the apps think that your phone isn't rooted, but it did not care. Which, honestly, that scares me that an app like Snapchat is touching, like, basically, that feels like it has kernel level access to my device.
Marty said he found us when he was looking on YouTube for freeze dryers. Said something about max headroom.
Max headroom. I love me some max headroom.
So that whole hack, so that's very relevant because there was that max headroom hack of the guy who broke into WGN in Chicago, which is a broadcast station. I want to say in the 80s or early 90s.
My favorite signal intrusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he took over the station and he did some wacky stuff with like a Max Headroom mask on. My dad actually saw that because I'm from the Chicagoland area and he watches WGN like religiously. The man falls asleep to Tommy Skilling, the weatherman. I'm pretty sure that's his lullaby on a nightly basis. But he caught that broadcast live and I asked him about it recently and he was like, yeah, I saw it, and I was so confused. I was like, what is happening? Is this on? Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen it.
There is a broadcast intrusion. You know, that's kind of interesting. You were talking about the security when it comes to these systems. I don't know how secure they actually are. I don't know a lot about the facilities or services that run them. And when we talk about, like, script injection, is it possible to do it through that system on your phone? Well, the emergency broadcast system is running in like such a low subsystem on your phone. I have no idea. Like, I don't think you could stop it if you wanted.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it's buried deep inside a process that is like critically system essential, and you're like disabling that process would disable the phone, essentially. I have to think that's the way, and I have to think it's mandated like that for like through law. You know, honestly, anything that gets that level of access... two things of note here. One, that level of access, giving another entity bar yourself that level of access to your system is terrifying in and of itself. And two, there are quite a few people, like the majority, I would say, of people, at least anecdotally with myself, are vastly okay with handing away that kind of system level control. For example, Valorant, a game produced by Riot Games.
Yeah.
They make League of Legends, but League of Legends doesn't do what Valorant does. Valorant has an anti-cheat system called Vanguard. Vanguard, to play Valorant, to be able to play the game, Vanguard has to be running boot. It starts at the kernel level, and it constantly, 100% of the time, scans your computer, files, drivers, everything, looking for hacks, but it is described as essentially like files that Riot doesn't want on your computer. So they are sniffing out your personal files, and if they don't like what they see, if there's some kind of code that throws red flags, they are going to permanently disallow you from playing the game. Now that's a video game, okay? That's not a very serious, like, offense, whatever. You can't play a video game.
I mean, it's a
but it's a
pretty big
slippery
intrusion,
it is, and it's a slippery slope, because if people allow it in their entertainment, they're going to start allowing it in their fridges. They're going to start allowing it in their water supply. They're going to start allowing it to creep into their life bit by bit by bit.
No, fridges are just largely unsecured smart devices hanging out there waiting for a hacker to ad hoc connection into them.
Hey man, you can play Minecraft on a Samsung fridge.
I'm sure you
that's all
can.
I'm saying.
Rex says Facebook knows when.
Well, I mean, okay, so the marketing, do you guys know, like, how the reason you get ads that are so spot on, a lot of people think they're listening to your conversations, but it's actually like ambient noise playing in the area. And there's essentially a machine learning, there's a neural network that sits in the background, and it's gonna listen to the sound of your microwave shutting, the sound of your fridge shutting, and a couple of blips off of your TV. And it's going to be able to identify like your socioeconomic status, your demographics. It's going to combine all of that with
Wait,
like,
what is listening? You're saying your
phones,
cell phone is listening to
anything that has a
ambient
mic, that has an app that's constantly accessing it.
I don't doubt that they activate your microphone, like that the capacity is there, but also just your general. The reality is your browser history is a gateway to your mind today, just the way it is. Like, you see someone's browsing history, you know exactly what they've been thinking about, and it's not hard to make assumptions based off of the millions of other users that are tracking metadata on, or more than metadata, to see behavioral patterns and to know exactly how to advertise to this type of person.
I know Facebook gets me a lot.
What scares me is when they get the stuff I'm only thinking about.
Right, that's
Right.
what I'm saying. Like, I've only thought this. How do you know? Like, I didn't even tell anyone.
It's a prediction.
Well, there's
It's
that
a prediction. They're looking at like a sample size, and they're saying, you fit this demographic, you are likely to want this item, and it's all neural networks. It's
And
all
they're usually
machine learning.
right. I do want the item.
Yeah, they're unfortunately very good at what they do.
Well, there's that old story about the dad who gets a bunch of pregnancy stuff sent to his daughter in the mail, and goes to the Target or whatever company it was that's sending them and tells them, "How dare you send this?" She gotta. Turned out she actually was pregnant, and somehow the advertising algorithms knew before anybody else did.
That's insane.
So I think he then sent a letter of apology or something like that. I don't know how factual that is, but
It
it's
sounds
an old
like it
wise
could have
tale.
happened.
I think it did. I think there's some truth in it, but
I don't know, these Temu ads that I keep getting on Facebook, I want everything. It's like it can read my mind.
That's just Wish. That's
Are we
just
advertising for Temu now?
no,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, no. I've never ordered anything.
Temu exploded out of nowhere.
I'm just saying it
they
came out of
spent
nowhere.
so much money on their advertising all of a sudden, and like every podcast, every advertisement was like Temu, and like before it, nobody knew what it was, and it's really just like somewhere between AliExpress and like Wish.
I really think I want to look into like the chain of holding for that company because I really think
I
it's just a
actually did.
subsidiary of Wish.
I did. It's a Chinese company.
Yeah, are they their own thing?
They are their own thing. In fact, I believe there was some lawsuit with them.
Wasn't it
and
with
Wish.
Shein or something?
Oh yeah, it was
Oh.
Shein, which is another one. I think they're more clothing oriented.
I've heard of Shein.
I've bought a
Direct
few
from
things
China.
off Shein. I have not
It's
tried Temu.
Shein, right? It's not spelled EE.
Shein, yeah.
Yeah,
EIN.
I
I
think
think
so.
so.
Yeah.
But even
mean-
then, the sizes were all weird. Nothing really fit.
The only one of those I've used somewhat is AliExpress. I just want something, some cheap adapter or something, and I can wait a month for it. I'll go to Ally and pay, 60% the cost maybe it was on Amazon for some cables, or, I've bought some cheap Chinese game controllers on there, stuff like that.
Oh, but bucking back against the instant gratification of Amazon Prime is so difficult.
Yeah. What's the statistic? Like, more people have Amazon Prime than have, like, mailing addresses or something like that in the United States.
No.
There's here, I'll try it.
I believe it. That's, it hurts. It hurts my soul.
We order Amazon stuff a lot, but I'm tired of getting like this itty bitty tiny product in a box that's this big. Then I have to try to get rid of the box. Very annoying.
Everything is bubble wrapped to hell and back.
According to the latest Amazon Prime statistics, about 81% of the US internet users aged 18 to 34 have paid Prime membership.
That is.
Well, yeah, I can get everything in 2 days, man.
I mean,
Sometimes, like, next day on certain things, it's kind of nice. And because we don't live next to, like, the stores and stuff, it's easier to get.
Yeah.
Don't have to drive to town.
I use Amazon a lot, but
81%.
81%, yeah.
That's terrifying.
Well, I mean, like, people were terrified when Walmart came in and blew all the mom and pop shops out sometime in the 90s,
You should read that book that I have. It's about Walmart and conspiracy theories and how Walmart's helping the government take over so that
Oh
they're
yeah,
the
the
only
FEMA
ones.
camps. The FEMA camps in the Walmart a couple years back.
It's a
I
little
remember that.
strange.
Wait, what?
Yeah, did you not hear about that? FEMA
Well-
set up tent camps in a bunch of Walmarts and in their parking lots a couple of years back, and no one. It was for an event that never happened. No one really had at least from what I understand, there wasn't much information.
Like an exercise?
Yeah, it was weird. It was really, really weird.
There's something very disconcerting about FEMA generally.
Well, they had set up something in Houston right during COVID. Spent a ton of money on it and everything, and it ended up never even being used. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, it's like they're not for being as public as they are, they're not a very public organization, right? They are, you don't hear anything about their goings-on in the media that isn't like, FEMA helped clean up after Hurricane Katrina. FEMA helped after this natural disaster. FEMA helped after this. But they get up to some really, really weird stuff.
What's that, or Alex Jones screaming at the top of his lungs about FEMA conspiracies? Which, I mean, I'm not saying the reality is they have camps for a reason, and it's, how do you do this? Like, Hurricane Katrina, right? Wasn't it FEMA that provided all of the, mobile home units to victims of Hurricane Katrina?
I believe so, yeah. I think they've been involved.
There was a big scandal about the off-gassing because it was all new building materials.
Sick from that.
Yeah, there was formaldehyde and stuff like that. That was an unsafe level. Like, it was like, I don't even want to say a number, but it was multitudes
They
higher.
did the same
than what
sketchy
would-
stuff during Hurricane Harvey when, my mom's house flooded and stuff, and everybody I knew's house flooded. They did a lot of sketchy stuff with FEMA.
Well, and shout out to the Cajun, what was it?
The Cajun Army, man, they came and picked up my mom. I called them from here to help get to my mom because her power had gone out. I hadn't heard from her in 24 hours. She was with my grandmother. I knew they needed to get out. They were going to run out of food and stuff. It was scary.
FEMA didn't really help her. The Cajun National Guard had to step in. Some semi...
I had found their number through
it was basically like numbers. A militia almost.
Yeah, they come out and help during like big disasters and stuff. But they came literally waist deep in like suits and stuff, and were pushing boats, and they had to like help carry my grandmother out. She's old. Well, she was old, and I mean they were kind of heroes. It was pretty cool.
That's sick.
But I mean, it flooded all the way up to the middle of the house to the second floor almost. So they were just up there for days.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's truly scary, but it sounds like they saved her grandma, really.
Yeah.
No doubt.
National Guard did not.
FEMA did not.
FEMA did not, yeah.
And it was FEMA that ran this test today, right?
Yeah.
FEMA and the FCC?
And so the case is with it, I believe by law, and it's probably a relatively new law, they have to run an emergency test every 3 years.
Okay.
It had been like 2. Like, I think the last time they ran it was in 2021.
I vaguely remember that. I don't think it, like, came through on my phone.
I remember it, again, vaguely. But that could be because of the graphene oxide.
Oh no.
The psychic bombardment
It's
of the high-frequency
false
signals.
memories.
Messing with us.
There's a lot to high-frequency signals and that stuff.
Luckily for me, I'm deaf, and I don't think any of it. I can't hear any of that.
I don't know, at the frequencies that they're emitting, I don't know if hearing is what you should be concerned about. It's just like body penetration. Like, it's like you're almost at like radiation levels. I mean, it is radiation, right? But you're almost at like harmful, like microwave levels when you're up in that frequency.
Well, I think it depends on the intensity of it. You know, like there's stuff like the mosquito ringtone, where, you know, the younger you are, the higher frequency you can hear.
Yeah, but that's sound. They're not blasting like.
Yeah, we're talking about like infrasound.
Sound out. This is like, wasn't this like a radio wave thing?
Yeah.
Like it was a super high frequency like blast of radio energy that went out. Not like a...
At least, you know, they can hear it because I can't hear it. The girls can hear stuff on the TV that I can't hear at all.
This thing rings in my ear like...
But you're quite a bit younger.
You're telling me. You know what it's like in here?
I don't hear any of it.
It's just high-pitched buzzing all day.
I'm glad I have...
Forget to feed me.
How's this?
Don't! Loud!
I'm so glad I can't hear any of it. You can tune it all out.
Oh man, X-rays aren't harmful, right? I mean, you gotta wear a lead vest, but like, I want to see like data on exposure to these kinds of things. I mean, there was a short duration, right? And that matters a lot because if we're talking like, think about radioactive material. If there's something releasing like 100 millisieverts a second or something like that, and you walk up to it and you're only there for a couple of seconds, you may not get a lethal dose of radiation.
Right. Yeah,
it may be enough that you can walk away. But if you stay there for 5 minutes, or you pick up that little iridium ball on a construction site and put it in your pocket thinking it's a pretty rock, which happened to a guy, he lost his whole leg. You know, so length of exposure matters a lot to that. Were they blasting it out that full 30 minutes?
Or was it just 29 minutes afterwards? I don't know.
So when 5G was rolling out, and even now you hear people talking about how detrimental 5G is. When the reality is, if you're into radios at all, which we've talked a little bit about ham radio stuff and amateur radio stuff, you don't want to put a radio transmitter next to your head. It's not great, especially a high-powered transmitter. Now, I'll put a 5-watt radio up to my face, but a 50-watt radio, I probably want my head a little bit away from that thing when I'm talking on it. And it's the same thing when it comes to 5G transmissions. Some of them are very like high frequencies. Now, some of them aren't. You know, it's distributed out at different frequencies. Some of them are around like the old television frequencies. But in most scenarios, like let's say you're living semi-rural or suburban lifestyle in a subdivision or, you know, on a farm or something, there might be a 5G cell tile along the highway a couple acres away from your property that you have some level of exposure to, but you're not sleeping on top of it. But in more urban scenarios where they're putting up 5G cell towers all across the roadside
and tiles,
and you're in an apartment, these small 5G tiles, and you're sleeping on top of the transmitter, I mean, the reality is electromagnetic frequency has a type 2B carcinogen, which means it's a possible carcinogen, or carcinogen. And exposing yourself to that level of electromagnetic radiation
probably isn't good.
You don't want to use it as a pillow, is my point.
Yeah, no doubt.
If they had put one up right next to your bedroom, I would be upset about it too. I wouldn't want to sleep next to it.
I mean, they are building them really close to houses, and our old house was built really close to one.
But there will, a lot of times they'll, maybe not in super dense areas, but a lot of times like individual citizens will get approached and will get money from, the company will pay the individual citizen to put a tower up on their land. They'll find the location,
especially
of
the farmers
land.
and
And sometimes those get really, really close, like dangerously close. There was I actually, when I was living on the other side of the country, there was a property we were at that had a tower fenced off on the property. It was a 3G tower. It was older, and it was probably 20-minute drive, a 15-minute drive to get to it from where the house area was. So it wasn't super duper close, but I find it interesting that there isn't regulation on how close those realistically. They can kind of get right up into population centers.
It's just like main power lines that you don't want to sleep under either. Like you see some, I can think of an instance where I know a trailer park that's underneath some of the like high lines, high voltage power lines, not just like regular ones that telephone poles down your neighborhood, but really high energy and also high up. What do you call those? I'm sure there's a term for them. Anyway,
Pylons?
Yeah, is that it? Is it high lines?
Oh, pylons. Sorry.
Pylons, yeah, whatever. Yeah, something like that. My point is just like those emit a lot of energy too, and a lot of EMF. Like if you can get a Gauss meter and walk under one and measure the change, and it's not minute. Honestly, you can measure the change in front of that CRT that's behind your head. You know, I remember once having my bed oriented towards an electrical like breaker panel, and my head was near it, and I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I need to sleep the other way. Like I'd rather have my feet next to it than my head, because I was in a small apartment, and it was like, that's I don't like that. But in terms of like frequency stuff, I had seen this thing, and I'm probably going to misquote some of the science, but they were trying to track down certain broadcasts to like a time or a place that they might have been recorded in. So let's say a crime was committed and it was filmed and have any other data on when it was. Well, the electrical grid has slight variations in its frequency. And these slight variations in the frequency can be tracked. So they also are picked up on recordings, like this recording, for instance, likely has some of these signs of slight variations in the electrical grid embedded into the recording. And you can take a recording and match it up with these slight variations to figure out when it was recorded and maybe where.
That's spooky.
It's very freaky.
That's really spooky. You know, I was thinking same thing kinda if you take like radio static is nothing more than just like ionic interference, right?
Right.
Same kind of thing. You can paint a picture.
You might be able to. I feel like that's harder because it's harder to record.
No doubt.
You know.
But I think we're not at a technological level where that fingerprint is accessible, but just kind of...
In terms of the grid, though, like let's say, North America, it's 60 hertz, and I think this is what they're talking about deviating a little bit. It might be some other frequency, I don't know. But, you have a record of the grid at all times. It's not hard to match that up. The other weird thing is like Wi-Fi signals. I've seen technology that uses Wi-Fi signals to basically image through walls.
I've seen that as well. It is very interesting. The guy that did that, he built it himself, didn't he? Is that what you're talking about?
I think it was like some little hacker project from a university or something like that. I think it was like a student project.
That's unique. I don't know what practical purpose it serves. It's unique and I like it though. What kind of surveillance though? I mean, I guess you're picking. You can see a phone in someone's pocket through a wall.
I mean, like DEA stuff like that. Like Barry Cooper. Barry Cooper's Never Get Busted Again fame was an ex-cop who he left the police force and then railed against like unjust cannabis laws, right? And one of the things he was always talking about was illegal surveillance that they would do of properties, and then they would get a search warrant and go in. So he had set up a sting house, effectively, where he had set up grow lights and all sorts of equipment to make it look like it was a grow operation. Well, it was empty. So the cops busted down the door, and there was nothing in it. And obviously they got in trouble because, how did you even get this surveillance, get the warrant for this? It was kind of to bust that I don't know if it was the DEA or just the cops or
either way. That's
law
good.
Enforcement it was.
I like that. Fun guy.
You're not following the law. Most of those raids are ridiculous.
You okay, Jacqueline? She's feeling a little under the weather.
Sorry.
You sound a little sick.
I'm trying. I'm pulling through.
Life.
We're not going to stream forever tonight. This was just a reason to put emergency broadcast in a title.
Right.
And it's there now.
And also kind of test. You can see we've been messing with microphones, and we've been trying to improve video and audio quality as best we can, which for the most part has gone well. Although I will say Rumble servers just they struggle with us. I don't know why it is. It's not our end. It's their end. Makes me a little sad.
It seems when we schedule our streams,
It does a little better.
it does a little better.
Maybe.
This
It seems
was
like
impromptu. So.
The way it works is Rumble gives you a different server to connect to every time. Again, they have limited resources. And sometimes you get a good one, sometimes you don't. It seems like roulette.
But that is life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we know some of this high frequency stuff for image. Maybe that alert did emit something and it was just an imaging thing.
Oh my god.
Maybe it wasn't anything biological. Maybe it wasn't Havana syndrome, but instead it was I want to see through some walls.
Oh man. Holy.
Yeah, and it did now I think this was planned out for a while, but it did coincide with a lot of the border crisis stuff that's happening.
Do you think it... Okay, so what I'm interested in is... Did that signal force that to every phone or only like US citizen phones?
Just in the United States.
Just in the United States? So it wouldn't say like hit migrants that a government would be looking for. Like it wouldn't ping.
Well, some of those migrants could have US phones or phones with US carriers. I don't know, like let's say you have roaming, a lot of times you can buy an international package for Mexico and Canada. My guess it would probably still cascade out to those phones, but I don't have any hard facts on that.
That's something interesting to look into because you saying an image I'm sorry, I'm having a moment right now.
I can tell.
Puzzle pieces are clicking together, man. That makes a lot of sense because what better way to see where people are occupying than with some kind of technology like that, where it forces everyone to light up.
Great.
It's like you're going to make everyone light up all at once, and if you want to see where someone is, that's where you see where someone is. When everyone is lit up, you can then be like, and then you've also got notification on who doesn't light up.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, like, you turned off your phones. This guy's a political dissident because he turned off his phones. He doesn't trust our signal.
I mean, that's 1984 level nonsense, but it's a possibility. Weirder things have happened.
But let's say it wasn't anything nefarious, that it was just them testing a FEMA national alert. That alone is creepy.
Why are they doing that right now?
Yeah, and number one, it's about a year early than is required by law, maybe. It broke up the White House press conference, which that seems planned.
No, 110%. Like, look at us with our emergency broadcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember about a year and a half ago, New York, subways and like train stations and buses and stuff there, the bus stops had posters for like, here's how to survive a nuclear attack.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Yeah. They put out a PSA for what you do in the event of a nuclear strike.
Why? That's media that hasn't had to be produced in 50 years, 60 years. I mean, the last nuclear safety videos you see were filmed in like the 60s and the 70s.
I remember as a kid us getting under our desk and things like that. Like
I never
I didn't have that.
We had that for like shooters, but not for.
I don't remember.
What's getting under your desk gonna do?
It's just so you don't get scared.
I guess.
You don't see it coming.
Well, I mean, I think the answer is we're playing with fire in a proxy war against another nuclear power, and it's barely a proxy war now. You know, it's very close.
The Cold Wars have been heating up.
It's like a proxy on our side.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. The other side.
The other side's there's no proxy anymore.
They're just giving up the ghosts. They're just like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, right.
Here we go.
But there's a lot of spooky stuff about like internet infrastructure, because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about this test. It's network infrastructure. There was news about like the internet kill switch. That there is I believe a kill switch that they could just shut. I mean, most governments have this. I believe they did it in like Iran during the Arab Spring, where they cut off the internet. They
killed it, yeah.
There was groups of hackers that worked to set up dial-up connections.
They set up like WASP networks locally amongst each other. I remember that.
Yeah, they were also setting up dial-up connections so that, because I mean, a lot of people still have landlines, I guess, there, and they were able to still dial up and get information. That's kind of hard to shut down. You'd have to shut down the I mean, it's not that hard, but it's not shutting down the broadband. And I believe every once in a while you see it pop up in the news about the U.S.'s internet kill switch.
Well, I mean, for a while, I think it was this past year, like there was like Wi-Fi like outages. Like everybody was noticing it around. Like I have family in Maine, I have family in Washington, Texas, Florida, California, and everybody was having glitches.
Like that guy when we went to the cell phone store. Remember ironically, the three of us went to the cell phone store together to get cell phones, and we were talking to this guy, and he was talking about how a lot of the towers were down.
Yes.
And we were asking him why, and he had the official explanation, and then he had his opinion of the explanation, and his opinion of the explanation was they're cyber strikes.
Which wouldn't surprise me, to tell you the truth. I mean,
would you even know?
There was a couple days my phone wouldn't even make calls. Like every single call was dropping.
Mine's been dropping texts. I'll be 5G, 4 bars in the middle of the city, and boom, nothing.
Well, last week when we were filming, I was trying to call the kids, and I couldn't call. I could text, but my phone would not go through. So I ended up texting her, and I was like, "Can you call me?" Her phone called me, but I could not get through. I don't know what is happening.
That is strange.
So we've been on the main shot here like all night. Let me put something up. This is an article dating all the way back to 2010. Should Obama's internet kill switch power be curbed?
Wasn't that his first year? Or was that his second term?
I don't know. My point is just like there's like this perennial news that comes up about it, and I'm certain that they have a way to shut down broadband. I remember hearing like weird stuff after the Patriot Act passed about government agents going into like telcos and setting up these switches. And I remember one guy talking about it, how the fiber was split by like a mirror, and in one direction went to the rest of the network, and the other direction went basically into a black box for the feds.
I believe it.
Yeah, so I mean, this is
That's
not
Stuxnet.
See. So some of these things that we're connecting are they're not disparate things. It's not just in our heads. Even BBC News is connecting these things.
It makes you want to have like a plan with your family and stuff in case all of this does go down and the phones are killed and internet's killed, you can't reach anybody, and something bad is happening. Where are you going to meet? What are you going to do? What's the plan? Because you might have no other way to reach them.
Yeah, because it's not even a matter necessarily of like our own country and some crazy conspiratorial thing shutting this down and enacting martial law. China could decide tomorrow that they really, really, really just don't like us anymore, and boom, we have no more communications grid.
I mean, if they have the ability to do that, and I mean, to what degree do they have the ability to do that? I don't think they could just decide it tomorrow, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility. Yeah, it's... What gets me about the emergency broadcast like this is if there was a national emergency like that, would the network even be up? Like, what kind of... If there's an emergency that is literally nationwide, like, usually when you think emergencies, we think, like, a hurricane, tornadoes, earthquakes, natural disasters.
It's localized.
Maybe even, an EMP. That would be national, right? And in all of these cases, the network's usually the first thing that goes down. You got ham radio guys driving to the AM radio station to broadcast out instructions. And sometimes that's what happens. There are plenty of cases where some AM radio station that still had power was the best way to get people information, sometimes life-saving information.
Well, I'll tell you with radios, ham radio, there's a like, it's called the wilderness rule, I want to say, with ham radio, where if you're out with a radio, like in the sticks somewhere, like exploring, you're out hiking or something, you're supposed to make a call out like once every certain set of time, and like checking for people that are like putting SOS signals out. It's a rule that's written into like the bycodes of having the license. So I mean, the radio stuff really is like, that is one of the few ways that communication is going to be able to be.
Well, I might have brought this up on here before, but to quote Tim Allen on Last Man Standing, and to paraphrase him, he's talking about ham radio because he's like a ham radio fanatic in the show. Which, he says, yeah, you know, I'm required to have a license and pass a test and then pass another test and renew my license. It's a good way to treat the last line of defense in an emergency, huh? You know, and that really is.
Yep.
Exactly how they regulate the heck out of it.
Very hard, very heavy.
Ham radio guys right now are fighting to move the digital standards from baud rates to like data rates.
Oh yeah.
Because in our country, for some reason, they've chosen this arbitrary standard of baud rates,
like a serial port transmission standard.
Yeah, it's more of an analog measure than a digital measure. Which they're like, just open it up and allow a digital rate so that we have a little bit more bandwidth to play with in terms of sending messages. And things really are last line of defense.
Mm-hmm. And you can do a lot with radio. People think that radio is walkie-talkie. People think that radio is a blister pack at Walmart, and it can be significantly more than that. You've got people sending each other pictures and, albeit slowly, video, data over radio.
You can download images from the International Space Station with the right equipment. And what kids don't realize today is this thing is a radio. You know, your cell phone's a radio. It's a computer, but it's a radio. And all radios today are computers, too, at some level.
Yeah, you can't buy a fully analog radio. If you do, it's coming out of some specialty shop and it's gonna be way too much money.
I mean, I remember when Hurricane Harvey happened, the phones were literally the first to go. Internet, I mean, because the lines were literally going down. And it was scary not having a way to reach anyone. Like, you couldn't reach them on any social media because they weren't able to get anywhere. They're stuck. It was terrifying.
Well, we get so used to it. We get so used to that being the standard. And it wasn't long ago that it
wasn't.
not.
I remember when text messages cost like
Oh my god.
30, 45, 50
Yeah.
cents a message, and it was you sent a text in an emergency.
I got
You
so
know what I mean?
grounded for
Our
like
kids would
300
die.
texts one time, man. My mom got the bill and was like, "You're not supposed to. It was this amount." And yeah, I was grounded for quite a while till I paid that bill off.
That's
Well, I mean, and
funny.
that's just our era. I was trying to explain to our daughter, like, hey, do you know how long ago it was that the internet didn't exist? And what I meant by that for her was that consumer internet didn't exist in a recognizable way. I'm not talking about early, like, dial-up bulletin board systems necessarily. I mean, like, consumer grade, like, web browser. And I looked it up, and I think AOL started in, like, 92. So by, like, 93, let's say, you could get some free AOL discs, dial up for 50 hours, and have yourself a ball.
I'm pretty sure she thinks we're ancient though, which is funny because I
Yeah.
had her so young. We're only 19 years apart, and I'm like, so that goes to show you what in 19 years can change from what I had to what she has.
Yeah.
But
the
you know,
technological expansion is so exponential too. It just
I have
Straight
to
up.
remind her, like, you know, from the time I graduated to her was only like 2 years. So, like, she's not that far behind me, but yet things have changed, like, so much.
we are in an interesting all three of us are in an interesting generational bracket. Like, generations were slightly different, but there is still a bracket we're in where we had formative years in the world of analog, and then we had formative years moving into the world of digital, and we had both of these experiences at once, and now it is just purely the world of digital. There is no because there's no frame of reference for people at this point forward. This feels like ancient history, you know, because it's like it never existed. It was never
My 8-year-old can do my phone and my computer and pretty much everything else better than me because I didn't grow up with this stuff.
when I was young, I was still running around in a swamp trying to catch frogs and snakes and stuff. And
Yeah, I
That
came home
doesn't
from school,
exist as
put my
much.
play clothes on because
Went
you didn't wear your
outside.
school clothes, you know,
Right.
for play.
come back home in the street lights.
Yeah, we went out and played. Like, my mom didn't let us sit in the house and do nothing. Like, we were outside playing.
But I mean, aside from aging ourselves, the advent of the cell phone and mobile data really changed the game. I mean, when I was in high school, that's when we got like high-speed internet.
You mean when these
DSL?
computers right here were put into our high schools?
I didn't have those in high school.
I never had those at all. That was
Mine
just
didn't look
barely
like
out
this.
of my
I
era.
think we had some kind of, like, weird, older... Actually, we might even have... I think mine were more like this at first. And
Yeah.
we had floppy disk. All the way up until I was in, like, 9th grade, we had floppy disk.
I think I was Dell Optiplex like my entire school career. I think just upgrades of Dell Optiplexes everywhere I went
One
is
what's
what I
scary is to log
experienced.
into all of our school computers. We had to use our social security number.
Oh,
That's how I
That's
memorized.
terrible.
That's how I memorized
Who
my social
decided
security
that?
number in
Oh my
like middle school
God.
because that was literally
I
our
would've thrown
login.
a fit.
Well, I didn't understand at the time what that even meant because I was a kid, but that was literally our log. Every single
That's
time we had to type in our
terrible.
number. And I realized, you know, once I became like military and stuff like that, I'm like, why
do
did the
that.
school have us putting our social security number in for our whole lives?
Well, they were probably sitting in a SAM file, which is easily crackable, especially when it comes to digits. You're talking about, what is it, like 8 digits?
I couldn't believe, like, that was our login.
that's a year max with a slow slow brute force.
No, not even, man, not even.
Um,
Do that quick.
Oh wow.
And by the time I got
That's-
to California, we were in computers that you could use, like thumb drives and stuff like that. Their computers were a little bit more advanced than what we had in Texas, so it was weird.
Well, I'll tell you, here's one. I don't think they still use overhead projectors.
Oh my gosh,
No,
no, they have
everything's big
smart boards that are like
Smart boards.
$7,000.
I got smart boards
You
in high
can
school.
touch them?
You can draw on them with the
Oh no,
yep.
we had the projectors with the plastic things. They would put it up in the class. It was quite loud. It would project everything on. They would write with their markers and stuff. A lot of my classes still had chalkboards, and they would have like...
Yeah, God, I hated that
Oh,
sound.
I hated the
I
chalkboards.
never had chalkboards, but the projector to
Yeah.
smartboard transition happened for me at high school. Like
I didn't
my
see a
freshman
smart
year.
board until recently at the school, and it's bigger than my TV.
And it looks better too.
Oh yeah, it's touchable. They have all
They
kinds of
pay
stuff.
an ungodly
They're
amount.
Oh, yeah.
for
so
those
expensive.
things.
The amount that they paid per classroom is
proprietary.
insane.
I want to say that I looked it up because our school was like towards the introduction of those, the school that I was going to, and I want to say I looked it up when they put them in, and they were running close to 15 grand
No, they're more, dude.
at the
It's
time.
insane.
They're paying like $50K for those things.
It's
Like, I mean, I get the touchscreen. That's really unique, but other than that, they're basically just like a
Projectors.
Raspberry Pi strapped to the back of the thing.
I
Yeah,
think
they're
it's kind of
projectors.
unnecessary. I mean,
The ones we're talking about are like
With a touchscreen.
75-inch TVs
Yeah,
with a touchscreen.
no, we had them. They replaced the entire whiteboard, and it was a big, like, their computer screen went up there, and you had interaction.
well, that now every
With the
homework
computer.
assignment, everything's online. It's very annoying. We went to the school to do orientation and stuff, and I'm asking each teacher, like, do you have a syllabus for your class? Well, it's online. Okay, well, do you have a printout of it? Because I don't want to go on my computer and have to do that. No, it's all online.
Yeah.
There was like one teacher that actually had a printed one for us to take home. I'm like, come on. They'll come home with assignments for school, and I'm like, okay, well, let me help you read. They don't have a textbook. It's on their stupid computers. I'm like, it's ridiculous. We live in a whole different world.
To reel us back just a little bit, I think we got into this talking about how we have this dependence or over-reliance or at least tolerance built to the ability to have this instant communication and instant data transfer. Like, ever watch War Games with Matthew Broderick when he's war dialing numbers? Like, you used to, like, with a Commodore 64, I think there's one of those behind you, actually. You would, like, run a program and set your modem to just dial calling cards. So, like, I saw a really good presentation. Let's say you're living in a city and one area code is the south side of the city, the other area code's the north side of the city, and you got a buddy who lives an hour away, but you got to pay for a long distance call if you want to connect over your modem and transfer that latest D&D game at a rate that's going to take 24 hours to transfer, like, a 5.5-inch floppy disk.
And I still remember my mom giving me like calling cards to take to church camp because like we didn't have cell phones and there was no way to call, so you would use your phone card at like a payphone.
Yeah.
So what hackers and phone freaks would do is they would call the calling card number and they would just have it war dial and continue to put in digits into it, tones into it, till you brute forced your way into having a calling card. Now you have that calling card and you can use it to make that long distance call to connect to your buddy and transfer that D&D game.
Okay.
Which again is still going to take you all day to transfer that 5.5-inch floppy disk.
But now it's free.
And yeah, the ceiling has blown off of data transfer, and the connectivity that people have today in terms of communication, we're completely over-reliant. And the minute it goes down, yeah, people panic. Of course they panic. It's something you've had your whole life now.
Yeah.
In our case, me and Jacqueline's anyway, and yours to some degree, we don't, the times that we had without that, we were in our adolescence.
Yeah.
By the time we were young adults, there was at least high-speed internet around, and by the time we were legal adults, smartphones were rolling out.
Things have changed. It's really weird. Do y'all remember calling people without an area code?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I can remember calling without dialing an area code, and I think I was about 6 or something,
When
and I
they
remember
changed it,
going
yeah.
to my grandmother's house, and I was trying to call my cousin, and they were like, "Oh, you have to dial the 281 or whatever it was for Houston at the time." And I'm like, "What's that mean?"
But she had
yeah, she still had a rotary phone.
Well,
a rotary phone.
She had one for quite a while.
I still get people, and I never experienced that, but I still get people that will give me their phone number without the area code, and it wigs me out every time because I'm like, there are 3 numbers missing from that, and I never experienced that, so it has always confused me. I legitimately did not know there was a time where you could do that.
I have my
there was,
grandpa's business card from, it was my great grandpa. It was my grandmother's dad, and all of his information on the card has no area codes, anything. It's really weird. Like if I didn't give my area code, y'all would never be able to call me. I have a Tennessee number.
Dialing outside your area code was prohibitively expensive.
Oh yeah.
Forget making a transatlantic call. That was extremely expensive.
I had like what, 1 line?
Yeah, one trench, at the bottom of the ocean.
Running everything across it, no doubt.
That's actually crazy when you start to talk about infrastructure.
That is on the levels of that is on the same levels of how in God's name did we do that the pyramids are on to me. Like, that is such a massive feat of engineering that it just baffles me that it was actually completed.
I mean, you just...
Any of the fiber lines that have run cross, like, transatlantic.
Just reel out cable and drop it into the ocean, disregard wherever it's, falling on it. I mean, like, those lines literally sit on top of things that human eyes have never seen. Think about that.
How do they repair them, though?
They basically trench a new one. I mean, I think that's literally what you do. You just roll out a new one if it's repaired.
So you're telling me we've just got ocean spaghetti?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You want me to pull up a map? I can try to find a map of it.
I would love to see the ocean spaghetti. It sounds delicious. Is it garlic?
But, I mean, like, honestly, it's kind of terrifying as we see things like, what was it? Deep Blue or whatever? That sub that blew up or imploded recently.
That was sad.
It honestly was. People were kind of tap dancing on their graves because they're rich, but I honestly,
I wouldn't.
It doesn't make their life any less like tragic.
Millisecond. Yeah. No thanks.
No matter like what my thoughts would be on that, I still don't want anyone to die like that. That's awful.
Yeah. An interest.
I'm ready for the spaghetti.
Working on it. Want to find a good one.
I'm ready for the spaghetti.
Now I'm hungry.
Is it a spaghetti? Oh man.
See, it is spaghetti.
Yeah. There you go. I'm always fascinated, specifically by the ones between the US and UK here.
Oh my god.
Look at the ones going out to Asia.
Those don't just go to Asia. I think those are the ones wrapping around through the bottom there, up like under
everything.
Africa. That's wacky, man. I don't know, like, emotionally what I'm feeling looking at this. That's a lot to take in, because that's a lot of infrastructure. I mean, that's thousands and hundreds of thousands of miles of cable we're talking there.
Yeah, I would say more. I don't know, but yeah, we're probably talking
Crazy.
I mean, from a security perspective, you better hope an evil Dr. No genius doesn't get a submarine and
right. Oh my god.
Takes the
go jack a lineman's phone directly into an aquatic fiber line.
No, it's the whole like Dr. Evil. I want $1 million, billion, trillion dollars.
Oh, you gotta do this.
Yes, $1 million, trillion. Yeah, it's wild.
Oh.
Austin Powers was my
Never seen it. Never seen it.
Oh man, I even had Austin Powers come to my birthday party.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Did a DJ thing. It was pretty cool.
So yeah, her family was kind of joking around about the emergency broadcast, and there was something wrap your phone in tinfoil, and I said no, throw it in the microwave. Which sounds crazy, but your microwave acts as a Faraday cage. So if there
Gotta
ever
keep all the
was,
microwaves out or in.
yeah, if there ever was a big EMP blast, I mean, it's not foolproof. You probably want like a microwave in a microwave, or a microwave in a tin can, or a microwave in a, but it's
Some might
better than
say
nothing.
a Matryoshka wave.
Yeah, if you unplug your microwave and throw your phone in it, it'll guard it from the EMP or
Well, the best
mass
part
coronal
about all of that,
discharge.
though, is there's 5 kids in my family. I'm the youngest, and then my brother is the one closest to me in age, is 7 years older. And we believe a lot of the conspiracy theory, weird stuff, but the other 3 don't quite go into it. So we'll get into like a group text, and like I'm sending Alex Jones wearing a tinfoil hat, and I'm laughing like, turn your phones off, you're gonna get like, fried brain or whatever. And of course, like the other 3 are like not taking it as funny. But it's more funny just to keep going with them, because then they think you're nuts.
Yeah.
My mom will even get into it. It's fun to mess with them. It's only a conspiracy theory till it comes true.
That's what I'm saying.
I tell them that all the time.
And how many of them keep coming true?
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced that America's early cybersecurity forces were essentially compiled by blackmailed hackers, bought and brought over to,
Do the
dark
work
side.
for
That
them.
makes complete and total
So
sense.
that they could get off instead of getting charged for stuff.
The internet
Yeah.
started as ARPANET anyway.
I mean, even if you watch Criminal Minds, which I absolutely love, Penelope on there, she's the one, she was arrested for hacking and stuff and forced to work for the FBI. And it's got to be based on something. A little truth to everything.
That goes back to the predictive programming, what we were talking with last week.
Rex says, so what you're saying is line your walls with foil behind the sheetrock while keeping an old microwave in your small electronic protection. Yeah, I mean, basically that's it.
Yeah, I feel like we're safe in here
I
then.
mean,
Showing your guests around, and this is my emergency phone microwave.
Mylar. What you need is the Mylar-backed insulation.
Yeah, Mylar's a wild material. Mylar,
Does it actually block RF, though?
it blocks thermal insanely well. It makes
Yes,
people
it creates a radiant
invisible
barrier.
on thermal cameras. It's wild.
Yeah,
I don't know about RF. I know it's
I
a
don't-
wacky material that can do a lot.
I don't know
we
how
have
much
those in our
RF it's-
cars in case of emergency.
like solar blankets.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have some. The reality is we have some insulation in here, too. But I don't know that it does much for RF. But I mean, it is true. Faraday cages are a real thing.
And aluminum
solar
really
flares.
is the material.
And solar flares are a real threat. Like, you don't have to believe in any, EMP, anything, to know that the natural world can fry your electronics. And I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't quite made with them in mind, so.
Yeah, exactly. God on the 8th day made the universe compatible with technology 3.5.
Sorry guys, had to patch it.
When's reality gonna get a patch?
We removed mosquitoes, sorry. Meant to take them out day one.
Oh God,
Never meant to ship with them.
we could go into mosquito talk. What's going on in Florida?
Oh man, it's Bill Gates.
Yeah, is it the Gates organization
Mm-hmm.
releasing genetically engineered mosquitoes in Florida?
Yep, sure enough, which that also just why was there no impunity for that decision? Why does that decision just get to be made on a whim for thousands of people? Strange.
And Rec, you're right. Preppers are not crazy. Well, I mean, there are some crazy preppers. I've met a few of those, so that's not entirely true. But prepping itself is not.
Stocking up on a few things that you're gonna need.
Have some water. Have some extra canned food. Have a radio. A Bofang UV5R is $20 on Amazon, and you might be able to talk to your neighbors with it. Like,
When my brother dry freezes everything, they have
It's-
all kinds of food for probably a couple of years if something really went wrong.
yeah, I mean, it's smart to have some of the basic essentials. Honestly, what I'd need to get is some of those life straws.
Yeah.
Seen those. You can I think they do like 1,000 gallons per straw,
Which
and it'll
is
basically filter everything.
Insane.
They were distributing them in Africa, where they have real poor drinking
remember
water in
that.
some areas. It could be life-saving technology in an emergency.
Yeah, water filtration otherwise requires quite a bit of energy input, whether it be like electrical or fire.
But yeah, to get back to the mosquito thing, yeah, I think the Gates organization released these mosquitoes that are genetically engineered, and this tech's old. Like, they've been talking about it from a long time, but basically the mosquitoes can pass on their genes to kill off other mosquito populations. So I believe they release male mosquitoes, of which I have heard that the actual implementation of this is not perfect because they always end up releasing female mosquitoes along with them. The male mosquitoes mate with the females and then or maybe it's female. Which ones don't bite? It's
The males don't bite, the females
don't bite. Yeah. So I think they release male mosquitoes when the females mate with them. Essentially, it kills them off after a couple of generations is the idea. It's like an abatement strategy. I don't know if that's the right
Female
word.
ones were bad this year, man. My legs were torn up.
Yeah,
They loved
well,
me.
If they're genetically modifying mosquitoes to stop reproduction from being possible within a few generations, who's to say that's not a test run?
Okay. Yeah. Lyme's disease.
Lyme disease is a funky one, man. It only exists near that, like, in the...
Plum Island.
Yeah, man.
I think the White
Both
House
my cousins
just
have
did
it, and they
something
got
on
it in
this.
Connecticut, and they were very, very sick. They're still having symptoms
They're
as adults.
going to for the rest of their life. Lyme disease does not
It
go
was
away.
horrible. They had ticks on their neck and some other things, but their whole childhood was pretty rough.
See, I've gotten ticks on it before. I used to live in a heavily wooded area, and I'd have to... You'd go out in the woods, you'd come home, the first thing you would do is
Check for
go in the
ticks.
bathroom and check yourself for
Yep.
ticks.
Yep.
Because you don't know they're there. You don't feel them.
Well, I
and-
had a tick on me not even a few months ago, and it was on my stomach. I freaked out.
Oh yeah, they're awful.
Like I was
Ooh.
freaking out. But they're everywhere. Thankfully, this didn't have anything. At least
Yeah,
not that I know of.
I was in a region where Lyme disease was prevalent. I actually had a friend in college who ended up getting it. Like it terrified me every time, and there was a point where I like stopped going out in the woods for a while. I was just like, it's not even worth the opportunity. I was getting ticks on me like every time I went out, and I'm just like, I'm gonna catch Lyme disease. It's
There's
They're
gonna happen.
freaky.
There's some evidence that Lyme's disease could go back a lot further than we believe. I don't know exactly what that evidence is offhand, but yeah, it's the uninitiated. What we're talking about here is the conspiracy theory that Lyme's disease came out of not genetic, but biological research facility off the northeast coast called Plum Island. I think it's Plum Island.
Yep.
I mean, they're disease vectors. There are disease vectors out there that are extremely good at transmitting infectious diseases. And I heard it bandied about by some politician or somebody. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a politician. It was somebody prominent, and they were talking about how, I believe is it Lyme's disease that makes it hard to digest meat or makes you not want to eat meat?
Yeah, no, you're unable, like, you become allergic to red meat, essentially, permanently.
Yeah, and he was like, well, maybe we can use that to essentially infect people so that they can no longer eat red meat, and that'll be better for the planet. Which, number one, I don't think that meets reality. I mean, like, I consider myself an environmentalist, but you gotta look at reality about a lot of these things. And plants use resources, too. A lot of water. A lot of water. I mean, like, cattle use a lot of water. Honestly, if you want to do something good for the environment, eat chicken. Not concerned about it. Chicken, in terms of resources, is a really good animal in terms of production for the resources that go into it. Certain tree nuts are terrible. They struggle with that in California.
Cashews.
Yeah.
Cashews are like a horrendous process to actually harvest and crack, and they're super poisonous for like half of the time, and they're weird, but yeah, tree nuts, man.
I always hear, you always hear solar's the answer. In particular, when people talk about solar, they talk about photovoltaic panels, not these like larger facilities that boil water by reflecting light onto a central point.
And that's just turbine power at that point.
Yeah, and those are really cool. And they have a footprint, obviously, based on where you build them, but people don't realize the amount of people that die in the production of photovoltaic panels is actually higher than I believe any other source of energy.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Why?
It also creates a ton of e-waste because after 30 years you have
They're
nothing.
done.
There's no commercial way to recycle those. It's not commercially viable. So I mean, I have some solar panels on my roof, so I'm not like talking bad about them, but I have them on a small off the grid so that I have a little bit of power when our power goes out. I have to run a radio and like a small swamp cooler or something like that. But in terms of a large scale solution, number one, aside from everything I just named in terms of the volatile chemicals and the hazards of manufacturing them and the e-waste, they create a massive footprint on the landscape that nobody seems to want to talk about.
Yeah, we are getting landfills getting filled up with crap like that at astonishing rates.
Like I said, it's not. I mean, like, think about taking away the wild spaces that we would need to actually fill up with solar panels in order to power the grid. It'd be massive. It's.
Well, even the ones we do have are massive. I don't know if you've ever driven through Nevada and seen some of the solar
I was gonna
arrays.
say,
They
or
look
you
like
go
lakes.
through like California with the huge windmill things.
Windmills are a little less of an issue, but again, it's not
Windmills
always
are
on.
honestly worse than solar panels. They're
That's what
less
I've
efficient.
read.
They break down and they kill a lot of people.
An over-reliance on them is a problem.
Uh-huh.
Not to mention they're
I don't think-
terrifying at night.
They themselves are not a bad source of energy, I don't think. I think they're a lot safer than solar, but somebody's got to work on the
Hold on.
things, and they.
Real quick, I'm going to find a video that I want you to show about it's my favorite windmill video ever.
I mean, that big Texas freeze that happened. What was it? 2 winters ago?
Mm-hmm.
That hurt a lot of people, and I think a lot of that was just an over-reliance on wind power. Turbines froze up. The part is we have more trees now than we had 35 years ago, and the wind turbines are terrible. I think we have more biomass in the plant kingdom. Is it a kingdom? I don't know. Anyway, we have more biomass of plants than we have had in the past, and that seems to be part of the increase of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide's great for foliage. But the question is the push towards these sources of electricity and away from dirtier petroleum and fossil fuels, is it a means to shift our supply of the necessary materials from like the Middle East to China, where we're getting the lithium, or Africa?
It is a possibility. And a very valid one, because over-reliance on those is something that is, like, geopolitically going to be an issue for us, probably sooner rather than later. I sent the wind turbine video. This is my favorite wind turbine catastrophic failure.
Check it out here. I think I've seen this. Alright, we're gonna watch. Right now, we don't.
I've seen a lot of these, and this one stands as my favorite.
I will preface this with I have no harsh feelings about turbines necessarily.
It is going, man. It is, and it keeps picking up speed and picking up speed, and it just doesn't stop. And boy, when it actually gets, it gets.
And Rec, you're correct. The best change is slow change.
Oh crap!
Bam! Holy cow! Yeah,
My
I've seen this.
favorite
Yeah,
one, bro.
that's-
I love it.
Why are we still using these?
I mean, it slings everywhere.
You wouldn't want to be anywhere near that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere within like a mile of that thing.
They interrupt bird migrations a lot and stuff like that.
I hear that. I hear a lot of birds die, like they get smacked out of the air by them.
I heard a very cool thing about I think it was Paul Stamets talking about redirecting the migratory routes of birds and insects away from areas where these turbines are. So, what was it? He had a way to do it, and it related to mushrooms, because everything's related to mushrooms with Paul Stamets. I don't know.
Well,
I'd have to look that one up.
no doubt. Speaking on migration patterns, there's some interesting research being done into locusts right now and identifying how, like, insect hive consciousness works. They've been able to captively breed like 10 or 20,000 locusts, and they finally have enough of them to start studying them. They let them out in a big room basically and study their swarming dynamics and what causes them to swarm, like when they swarm, because it's like you'll see the room and moving about, they're just moving about, and suddenly a stimulus will happen, and all of a sudden, like a wave, they'll all push at the exact same time in one direction and then back across, like a smooth gradient. It's really interesting, and that's kind of a little tangent off, but the testing of like hive consciousness there and what that...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's a shared consciousness. You see the same thing demonstrated in birds, where they're so in tune with fly so tight together that it's pretty miraculous to watch.
Mm-hmm. The messenger pigeons, homing pigeons.
Not just homing pigeons, but just birds that flock together. You'll see a bunch of blackbirds or something all move in unison in a way where it's like, how would you do that if you weren't sharing some sort of conscious?
Oh man, I'm referencing my high school a lot tonight, but back when I was in high school, we had an event, and God only knows why this happened, but every single year, the town that we were in would get swarmed by hundreds of vultures. They would black out our skies. They'd all they'd cover the roads. You'd see them perched on the top of buildings, just hundreds of them. And it's obviously like a migratory thing, right? But why do they all move at the exact same time?
I mean, I have a personal theory about it. My conception of this is that we all share a single consciousness. We all share a single conscious that projects itself into reality through the filters of biology and experience. As in, there's one pure white light source of conscious that filters and projects itself into this world.
Kind of like a world of ideas, like a perfect form of consciousness.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's not that far.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea is like, what separates, like, if I were to be able to take my consciousness out of me, and you were able to take your consciousness out of you, and we switched spots, right? Like your consciousness went into me and mine went into you. And we shed our biology, as in our genetics, and our experiences, as in everything, the nurture you've experienced through your lifetime. Not just nurture, but every experience. What would the difference be? What would change?
If we're, okay, so I feel you.
Don't answer this with a yes and no.
No, it's not. It's more of a sideways step.
Yeah, no. Oh, because yes and no is not a sideways step. A yes and no.
If we're removing genetics, we switch our consciousness. Are our bodies involved in this at all? No.
I mean, like, yeah, like you take your consciousness out of you. You shed your biology and you shed your experience, and we switch bodies and experience. Now your consciousness is in me and my consciousness is in you. Well, how does this change the situation in this room right now?
I don't think it would, because I think we're filters.
That's my argument there, is I don't know that it would change. So my point is that, all living things may share the same conscious, and it is filtered through biology and experience into this reality. It's projected like light. Just a thought.
Yeah, it's panpsychic in nature. It feels... No, I can get behind that.
Have I blown your mind?
I can get behind that.
It's tough because, you start to get to, well, that means I share the same consciousness as a serial killer, something like that. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess it kind of does. But I mean, I think that's where love and empathy comes from. It's what I call the bright white source of.
You gotta go read the Nag Hammadi Codex sometime. I mean, I think you and Gnosticism would get along very, very well.
It's interesting. I don't hold firm to too many beliefs. I just have vague ideas.
No, I understand that wholeheartedly. You have to just have vague ideas, in my opinion. There's too much that's unknowable to not just be vague ideas.
It does explain that sort of hive mind or consciousness. Like, what is it? Like, when they do random number generators around the world, some of the same numbers will pop up on different sides of the planet at the same time.
GCP, Global Consciousness Project. Have you ever seen that? It is a bunch of random number generators placed all across the world, feeding into a central station that basically measures the amount of variance in those random signals, and it notifies the website, essentially. It notifies whoever's on there of, hey, there is some kind of, like, there's a pattern emerging on all of these at once. And they use it as a way to measure shifts in, like, a global consciousness pattern.
I don't know if their official site here is neat.
There should be a little chart, like a graph with a line on it. But I think this is it, and it just might be scrolled down, or... I don't know, this doesn't look like what I remember. Oh,
like it?
This is not at all it. The GCP I know is just a little dot that moves on a graph.
Huh, okay. Well, I mean,
I'll see if I can find it while we're talking.
It seems like when somebody comes up with an idea, that idea like spreads. Like multiple people around the world may have the same epiphany or the same idea, and it manifests itself around the world. Then, like once the light bulb happens for other people too. Like, because it's out there in the ether, it's out there in the global consciousness, so it gets picked up.
Oh man. I just sent the dot in chat accidentally, but you can get to it from there. It's actually kind of has an interesting pattern going on to it right now.
Does it? I don't know how to interpret this.
Basically, the spikes, the green and yellow random spikes, are normal. That's what you want to see, is extreme variance. That period of blue at the bottom where it bottomed out, and that period at the top where it's not, are oddities. They suggest either
less variance down here,
less variance and extreme variance, like extreme variance, like so random that it shouldn't be possible with computerized random number generators. And I actually don't even think these are computerized. I think this is using atomic generators. I think they have like radioactive decay happening for the random particle detection to trigger. So the randomness here, I think, might even be more like a step above in terms of random.
Look at this, like 100% almost down here.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of variance, that's crazy. Rick brings up a good point here. Said this is why I thought about shared false memories of Mandela effect. Yeah, I mean, it definitely could play into that. There's no reason it wouldn't. You know, you get one shared false memory, and it just kind of, especially when we're talking about a lot of these too, when in terms of Mandela effects, it seems like a lot of it's like nostalgic childhood memories. And if anyone's more in tune with this ethereal forces, for lack of a better term, is it not children and animals?
Brother, the Mandela effect, it's not false memories, it's forced memories. It's widespread memory alteration.
Touché, sir.
There was a study done, and God, I can never remember the names of the psychological studies I talk about, but I swear to God it happened. There was a study that was done that this group of researchers took children and their parents, and they asked the parents a series of events in the child's life, like, oh, they scraped their knee at this age, and they did this at this age, yada yada yada. And they would go in and they would ask the kid, they'd sit him down, and they'd say, hey, do you remember scraping your knee? Yeah, can you tell me about it? Okay, thank you for describing that. Do you remember going to John's wedding when you were 6 years old? No? You don't remember that? Okay. Do you remember riding your bicycle down the street when you were 12? Oh, you do remember that? Can you describe that to me? Okay, thank you. They'd send them home. The next day, they'd come back. They'd ask him the same set of questions again. Hey, do you remember scraping your knee? Yeah, sure. Hey, do you remember John's wedding? Oh yeah, it was in the middle of the summertime. My family was down there with John's mom, and they'd have a story. Just the act of slipping in something that they hadn't done as a child into that series of questions, because it's
false memory.
They were able to implant, like, hey, this happened, and when they came back, they had crafted, and it showed, like, coherence across subjects. This was a repeatable result, where they would come back with a fully realized memory, essentially, of an event that just the most basic information of that event had been planted in their head.
I think I followed that, but I mean, it sounds like you're just talking about how subjective memory actually is. It's exactly why eyewitnesses make terrible, testimony.
No doubt.
But yeah, I see that. In terms of buying the Mandela effect, I mean, the Mandela effect is just a name, but people treat it like it's a phenomenon, like it's a supernatural phenomenon, when I think it's pretty easily explained in cases. Says the man under the Oscar Mayer wiener. Oscar Mayer, excuse me.
Thank you. No, man, too many things have got me. Those bears, man.
Berenstein Bears.
The Berenstein Bears.
Why do we always come back to this?
It's the biggest one. I mean, it should be called the Berenstein effect.
To the Mandela effect.
I think there's something there. I don't know what it is, but there's some kind of, whether it be mass hysteria, mass false memories, government conspiracy, there is something of note to be taken from that.
So, how will we remember this emergency broadcast?
We won't. It's gonna get memory.
We're gonna remember it because we made a live stream called the emergency broadcast. Just clearly a must.
No, I think it's absolutely going to get memory hold. Whether or not it was anything more than just an emergency broadcast test, God only knows. My vote is in the basket for it absolutely was something, because I don't think the government does anything that is exactly what it says at face value ever.
Yeah, well, my question is, I mean, it's a relatively insignificant event in our lives, and God willing, it will stay that, and we'll never have to see an actual, real emergency broadcast like what we saw today, and it not be a test.
Nope, not. So I don't really want my kids living through it either.
No, nobody wants that. It's kind of scary that they did it when they did it, although, the excuse is, hey, we got to do this every 3 years.
Yeah.
We're here talking about it, and there are some interesting political things happening in the background of it. I don't know if you've seen the Kevin McCarthy stuff. Not to get too political, but in just general news.
That's wild. What?
U.S. history. No Speaker of the House has ever been removed in U.S. history, in the history of the country.
Couple hundred years, but that's still a couple hundred years.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a historic event happening in the background, if you want to talk smoke and mirrors. But again, it was a planned event, but who knows? Planned events are a good time to do smoke screens. Now, I don't think Congress necessarily. I would think more like military action screen than like some random congressional action from, all them bozos in Washington. But these questions are better left up to the suits in Washington. Not us lowly lowly podcasters.
I'll put on a suit. I'll go up there.
You know, we didn't open the lines at all tonight. We were like, we started this and I was like, we're going to open the lines immediately because we're just going to rant all night. And we haven't had them open at all. And you guys didn't call me on it whatsoever.
I looked to the left like twice. Wasn't paying attention.
I mean, honestly, we got our few precious viewers out there. But we'll open them just in case somebody wants to call. You know the number. It's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. 857-32-D-DIAL. 857-323-3425. You can even go to darkdial.com and there's a call now button. Yeah, we actually just put a landing page up on Darkdial. Darkdial.com. That's totally mirrored, isn't it? Oops.
Yeah.
I'll flip the TV upside down
That's
later.
the effect of living in a cathode ray tube that, stuff gets mirrored. Yeah, I don't know. We were excited about that. We got a little landing page up in front of the forums now on darkdial.com, so.
I think it's gonna help all of you find us everywhere a little better than the Linktree was.
Yeah, we honestly didn't mean tonight to be a big production. We were just all here and we were trying to make a decision of if we're gonna film some other content and upload it separately or if we wanted to go live, but given the emergency broadcast, kind of wanted the excuse to go live because it's more fun than us just filming and not our precious viewers.
When we film, I have to take multiple takes.
You need to stop saying precious. That's creepy. My precious viewers.
No, you gotta do the hand moment thing.
I just meant I appreciate the few of you we're talking to.
Tonight. He said, I don't know if this was brought up or not. Let's pose a question. If the Patriot Act was had not happened, would they allow it to do a mass alert to our phones?
I have a feeling they still would. I think the Patriot Act is really about surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the two things are necessarily connected, although it definitely habituates the American public to this kind of intrusion, if you want to call it that.
Habituation, that's a good way to put that.
Yeah.
It's a good way to put that because it is like a make it normal.
The Patriot Act, I mean, the reality is, like, our children will grow up in a world where the Patriot Act has always existed and is taken as just fact of life.
It might as well have been that way for me too. I was somewhere between 3rd and 5th grade when that got put into place.
Yeah, I mean, I was in 7th grade. Happened. So,
Oh
God, then I was even...
I was gonna say I was in 7th grade where I'm like little.
Well, what gets me is how little the average American does not care at all.
I was gonna say you're little.
Oh yeah, no, the average American, honestly, when you bring it up, they get upset at you for bringing it up. I feel like it's almost like a how dare you be upset at this. Like the thing I get in response most often to that being a thing is like, well, if you don't have anything to hide, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, that was always the phrase that pays with it, right? It is unfortunate.
It really is, because but they're not mutually exclusive. I can both not have anything to hide and not be okay with that.
I mean, it's okay for me to be secure in,
Information's
my
powerful.
artifacts and my possessions, and that includes my information.
Information's more powerful than anything else, I'll tell you that much. The world runs on information, not money. Money is a way to exchange information.
Well, like I said, it's not going away. It's only become stronger. They'll continue to pass more and bills. based off of various events that might have happened in Washington point in January some year.
Well, one of those days, you know.
They're not discussed too much, but yeah, they I mean, never let a good tragedy go to waste.
Which is awful. You know what I mean?
It's not good. You right?
Yeah, I tweaked my back.
Broken.
Oh my god.
I'll let y'all talk for a minute. I gotta go make a phone call super quickly.
Tell us more about the old ants. While you hold your broken back.
Well, let's see.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, we didn't have none of these fancy schmancy 18,000 hertz cell phone networks. We had rocks, and we threw them at each other, and the feds threw them at us, and we threw them at the feds. And then we realized we were the feds, and the feds were us, and we were the rocks. I don't like thinking about the old times, Gavin.
Watching you peek out your microphone while man voice with spinal pain is hilarious.
Oh man.
Yeah, I honestly the whole emergency broadcast thing, it's kind of I don't care. I don't care. Are you surprised? Are you surprised that they can send out an emergency message nationwide?
No.
Like
It used to just be on the TV.
honestly, I think some of the theories about the high-pitched nonsense, I think some of that serves to dilute people who are out there screaming about real conspiracies
right.
that are occurring.
You're
it just makes
right.
everybody look nuts.
You are absolutely right, and I'm never prepared when I'm unprepared, but there's documents showing that the CIA, like FOIA documents, used like plants for absurd conspiracy theories to basically throw tracks off, especially around the time like MK Ultra was getting kind of released information about that was coming to light in the public. They started throwing, I mean, a lot of wonky stuff out there to get picked up and basically made fun of, for lack of a better, I can't think of the word that I want there.
No, I hear you. Sometimes the craziest conspiracy theories, the least plausible, the least realistic, get thrown out there in order to discredit everybody else. It's like the crazy prepper. When you put him up front, he makes everybody else look crazy, and the other guy's like, hey, I lived through an ice storm once, and I didn't have food or electricity, and I just would rather be prepared.
Yep.
Simple as that. You know, I'd like... Why would you be surprised when going on since we all were born? Yeah, I mean, it's a slow erosion of our rights, but I don't want to go there too much. I mean, like, it is conspiracy territory, I suppose.
It's
not as fun and light as we would typically like to do.
And, you know, I have no issue getting into things like that, but, man, touching... Conspiracy theory and modern conspiracy theory have two very different connotations in the lingua franca.
Right.
You know, I like talking about modern conspiracy theories too, but that's likely to get you... Modern conspiracy theories are all political. There is no non-political modern conspiracy that exists. And you are ostracizing yourself from one group or the other in the dichotomous system that we exist in when you speak on a political conspiracy.
Yeah, what do you mean? You're not Team Red? You're not Team Blue? Mm-hmm. What are you? What are you then? Tell me. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, there are some out there, but again, also you just sometimes will be, you know, tossed aside as a wingnut.
Yeah.
And there's no room for any level of conspiracy. Or it's you're in a group with somebody screaming schizophrenic rants onto, you know, little known boards on the internet.
You know it.
Which we're hoping to have a little known board on the internet have some schizophrenic rants. So check out darkdial.com, the place for schizophrenic rants. on
Please
the
leave us
internet.
only your best.
Right.
Or your worst, honestly. We want it all.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much everywhere you can find us is on darkdial.com, that landing page now, all of our socials and stuff. No need to search around. They're all there. As well as the forum. You can get to it from, it's actually bb.darkdial.com, but all you got to do is go to darkdial.com and hit enter forum.
It's a lovely, delicious Go-Gurt-looking button. The button looks scrumptious.
You keep saying that it looks like Gogurt.
Well, I'll find, let me, before...
Did I pull up darkdial.com?
Yeah, I'll pull it up real quick. I'm gonna find you a picture of the yogurt I'm talking about.
Alright. And then let's wrap.
Yeah.
Gotta save something. Wow, why does that look terrible? Oh, it's because this screen is zoomed in. Basic. Landing page. Literally a landing page. Do you get it? Did you get it?
Mm,
Did you get that it's a landing page? Do you understand that it's a landing page?
yeah. Oh, it was these. Hold on.
We'll throw that Discord link up too, probably before Friday. Probably Friday, I think we're gonna make sure that Discord's active.
Alright, hold on.
In case you want to join our Discord as well.
When Rex said that he wanted to add something to last week's discussion, but he's got to go soon, so I know he said Friday he might not be able to watch either, but maybe next week.
Yeah, for sure, we'll be here. So
No doubt.
no worries, man. Thanks for hanging out. We're about to sign off here too.
Always appreciate
Here's the
it.
forum. If you haven't seen our forum, you can sign up and talk about things. Get some traction here. It'd be very cool.
Tell us your ghost stories. Tell us your not ghost stories.
You sent me the Gogurt.
The
Okay.
Yeah, it was Trix yogurt. That's what it
That's
was.
what I was about to say, Trix yogurt, but you kept saying Gogurt.
That's just like my go-to, like fruity, fancy yogurt. Fancy is not the right word, but you know what I mean.
So
This
just
is-
to compare, this is what Chance thinks looks like the enter forum button. on
Does that
homepage.
button not look delicious?
I mean,
Like a
it's
fruity,
close.
refreshing treat.
The goal here was to go with like sunset colors. Anyway,
Okay,
so
I
yeah,
think it's
check out
pretty.
darkdial.com. It looks like yogurt.
We don't sell yogurt.
And if you can, please like and subscribe if you're watching this. We'll do the thing real quick here.
What the thing? Oh.
Bam.
I'm not gonna get
Oh,
it.
Bam.
It's so much
Bam.
faster now.
Why is it? No, it's not. It's
Oh
the
wait,
same
I was
speed.
going along with the UFO. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Oh man.
Like,
Wait.
subscribe, and get notifications.
Okay,
it is
okay,
really
okay,
fast.
okay.
though.
Third time's the
okay.
charm.
Like,
Wait, fuck. Oh,
Like,
fuck. Oh,
subscribe.
it is faster.
notify. Anyways, just like and subscribe.
Anyway, this has
Come
been
hang
a
out with us.
breaking news segment with Dark Dial. That was the breaking news that there was an emergency broadcast, so we did an emergency broadcast. Think about it. It makes sense.
It makes sense. Complete sense. It's like buffalo, 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 or a radar detector.
A radar detector. I think I have one of those.
I'm Gavin Green.
I'm Chance.
Cryptic J on Facebook or just Jacqueline.
Yeah, you can find us all. But there you go. So, we'll catch you guys Friday, same time, same place, 8 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Central. We'll be on taking calls. We'll take more calls than we did tonight, hopefully. And we'll have some cool topics to talk about.
No doubt.
Everybody have a great evening. We'll see you Friday.
Bye. See you Friday.